David McCullough is one of America's most honored and popular historians. His latest book went right to #1 on the New York Times bestseller list.
The book is called The Wright Brothers. It tells the unlikely story of the two remarkable brothers, partners in a bicycle shop in Dayton, Ohio, who in 1903 became the first men to fly a heavier-than-air machine guided by a pilot. As David McCullough explains, Orville and Wilbur Wright achieved that world-changing feat with little money, no institutional backing, no college education, and no technical training.
And people mocked them. People made fun of them. They were dismissed as a couple of crackpots. Nice fellows, but odd. But they were brilliant. And there's no question about that. I think that Wilbur, without any doubt, was a genius. They also were extremely courageous, brave. They knew every time they went up on a test flight, whether it was with one of their gliders or their motorized flying machines, they stood a very good chance of being killed. And for that reason, they never flew together. They never went up together. And they learned from their mistakes. And they would not give up.
Let's talk a little bit about Kitty Hawk. That's something that probably Americans know, is that the Wright brothers first flew at Kitty Hawk, but they don't know anything of what Kitty Hawk was like at the time. How remote, how rugged.
There were no bridges to the Outer Banks then. They were islands. They were sand reefs. And very few people lived there. There were no roads. And it was mostly all sand. Well, they wrote to the National Weather Bureau to find out where they could get constant wind. They understood that you have to fly into the wind. The old Irish saying, "May the wind always be to your back," was exactly the wrong way to go about it. Also, the idea that they had all that sand meant soft landings, which could be very important, crucial, life-saving. And there were very few people to take up their time or ask questions or hang around too much and interrupt their progress.
In December of 1903, they have that historic day, 4 flights, the 4th one about a half mile.
More than a half mile, yeah.
They relay the news back to a newspaper in Dayton, Ohio. What did the newspaper do with that news?
Well, they just put it aside. They ran on something rather short a couple days later, and they had all the details, all the truth mixed up, as did every newspaper that ran anything about it. Nobody believed it. So the first real flight that the world recognized that, yes, it's true, human beings can fly, took place on August 8th, 1908, the 8th day of the 8th month of the 8th year of the new century, 5 years after they flew at Kitty Hawk. But again, they faced all kinds of adversities, and this didn't deter them, because they knew they'd done it, and they knew they could keep on doing it.
It all began not that long ago.
Oh, absolutely.
My grandparents, I would imagine, would remember the news of the Wright brothers flying.
Yes.
My grandparents.
I could have known Orville Wright. Orville Wright died in 1948. I was 15 years old. If I'd grown up in Dayton, Ohio, in the same neighborhood, he would have been that nice old fellow that always said hello as he was out for a walk. It wasn't that long ago. As history goes, it was just a couple of weeks ago. And yet, many, many well-informed, well-educated people have indicated to me, by what they said or questions they asked, that they know nothing about the Wright brothers. Zero. If they had failed in their purpose, I still would have wanted to written the book about them. So admirable were they as human beings.